Welcome, everybody, to another Tuesday Lord Meher book reading. We are reading from page number 1090, the online edition, and it's getting very interesting now. Early in the morning of Monday, 16th September 1929, Baba was taken to Mount Poinsar, also known as Mandepshwar Caves, where he saw a ruined Portuguese church, a, Fran- a Franciscan monastery, and a large orphanage. A statue of Jesus adorned the top of the church, which commanded a panoramic view of the surrounding hills. Baba ate lunch that day at Na- Na- Nauroji's house and served the meal to all who came. I'm going to read from the footnote. Lord Meher, page 1090, carved out of solid rock, the caves at the base of this hillock date as far as 750 AD. Built by Buddhists, worshipped by Hindus, fought over by the Portuguese and Marathas. They now stand unoccupied, still under dispute. All that remain are empty chambers, underground caverns filled with water, mutilated statues of Shiva, and the remnants of a Christian cross carved on the wall outside. Legend has it that the Portuguese converted its sadhus and laid the first foundations of Christianity on the island of Salsette. The Church of Our Lady of Immaculate Conception still stands today among the ruins of the previous monastery. Its parish, the oldest in Bombay, dates back 400 years. Baba ate lunch that day at Nauroji's house and served the meal to all who came. Baba had succeeded in obtaining a Persian passport, but the thumbprint proved insufficient in acquiring a visa, which would be necessary to re enter British India on a Persian passport. The officer at the British consulate declared that no application was valid without a properly endorsed signature. He added that they were free to proceed to Persia, but re entry into India would likely prove problematic. Janji explained the visa difficulty to Baba on the 16th, and Baba replied, "The greater the trouble, the better for all." Baba then directed Chanji to keep trying to obtain a visa. Baba left Bombay for Nasik that day to bid farewell to the women Mandali and took with him copies of photos taken at Russell's studio to give them. He returned to Bombay the next day and was informed of the latest developments. On 18 September, Rustam was assigned power of attorney on Baba's behalf during his absence. The next day, Chanji made an appointment with the governor about Baba's case, but he had been warned that the chances of success were doubtful. While Chanji was at the office, Baba suddenly remarked, "Everything should be completed today. The visa problem, which had been dragging on for 2 weeks, was finally settled after Chanji's half-hour meeting with the governor. Traveling papers were issued and all arrangements were completed to sail for Persia the following day. Meanwhile, Aga Ali's parents appeared on the scene, demanding to know what was Baba's intention concerning their son. Ali was in Quetta with Ali Akbar and Chota Baba under Rao Sahib's care. During the farewell darshan program for his many Bombay devotees, Baba patiently explained his current plans to Aga Ali's parents. Before leaving, Baba ordered Ramju, Padri, Nawal, Kakabarai, Dastur, and Pleader to fast on only milk and to occupy one single room together at Mehrabad. But later, the order was changed and applied only to the Pleader. The other men were to fast on milk only for one day. Chapter 9: Tumultuous Travel. At 9:15 on the morning of Friday, 20th September 1929, Kakabarai drove Baba and the Mandi to Victory Docks. Several of the master's devotees had come from Pune, Ahmednagar, and Bombay to wish him farewell. Memo and Gulmai were the first to garland Baba. The group boarded the SS Warsaw and sailed at 11 a.m. Cheering, all his devotees joined in a hearty bon voyage. Age witnessed the scene and reported Baba's close lovers were waving kisses and such depth of feeling it seemed as if they were bidding farewell to the very source of their being. Angels wept at the unique expression of their love. They watched as the master waved from the deck of the ship to his lovers of all castes and creeds, rich and poor. When the lover speaks to the beloved through tears, it cannot be described. Only the heart can understand what sonnets of love are exchanged between them. On board the ship, it was puzzling to the other passengers to see the one who was given such a loving and grand send off occupy an open space on the third class deck. A wealthy Parsi merchant and a contractor from Nasik named Burjor F. Joshi whispered to Chanji, "A saint of Meher Baba's caliber should not travel third class. I will arrange a special cabin for him." Janji explained that Baba always traveled third class. Not satisfied, the man approached Baba directly and pleaded respectfully, "Your Holiness, the deck is no place for a person of your saintly status. Permit me to arrange a cabin for you and your companions in first class." Baba gestured and replied, "I'm quite happy where I am. A fakir's place is always among the poor." But the merchant could not accept this. Joshi found the captain of the ship and requested he provide a proper accommodation with all comforts for Baba and the Mandali at his expense. And he especially asked him to see personally to all their needs. The captain made all the requested arrangements, but Baba shunned the offer despite Joshi's frequent inquiries. At the earnest request, however, Baba did agree to shift to a second class cabin. Joshi had heard of Meher Baba, but he was meeting him for the first time. His first encounter with the master caused a profound turmoil in his heart. He was determined to see Baba more comfortable, and his efforts surely proved a blessing at some point in his life. While on board, Baba frequently remembered Aga Ali and would often kiss his photograph. Maruti Patel and Bua Sahib became seasick during the voyage, and their treatment was arranged. On the 9th of 21st September, the ship arrived in Karachi. Baba and the Mandli were met by Pila Mai, Baba's maternal aunt Banu Masi, and Meherwan and Homi, her two sons, who had been at Meher Ashram school. The most distinguished among the others waiting to receive them was the mayor of Karachi, Jamshed N.R. Mehta. Pilamai invited Baba to her house and he went there at 11:30 p.m., accompanied by Bao Sahab and Vishnu. Baba met with people until 2 in the morning, giving a discourse on divine love to Jamshed Mehta, 43, and praising the selfless service he was doing in Karachi to assist the downtrodden classes and lepers. Baba then stated, "Real worship is within, inside the heart, not in the outward muttering of words. To enter the spiritual path, one has to go beyond religious ceremonies. One cannot grasp the truth through the intellect, but at present people are averse to know even an iota of it. All the disorder of the world is due to the mind. He who conquers it conquers everything and is a real hero. Banu Masi had not been feeling well, so Baba made arrangements in Karachi for an operation she needed and instructed his cousin Meherwan to attend to her. His other cousin Homi wished to stay with Baba permanently. Baba gave him no answer then, but asked him to remind him about it on his return from Persia. Baba and the Mandi were driven back to the ship in the morning on Sunday, 22nd September 1929, and they left Karachi the same day. Amidst a loving farewell, during Baba's brief visit, Jamshed Mehta established a closeness with Baba and was to become a significant contact. He was a friend of Mahatma Gandhi, and it was through Mehta's influence that Gandhi eventually came to meet Meher Baba. During the rest of the voyage, Baba refused to come up on deck. The cabin he had been provided with was in the hold, and the men were sweltering in the heat. Baba remarked, "It's my luck. The place, the hold, is destined for me, and I like it." On 24th September, Baba began goading Bua Sahib. Once, while Baba was teasing him, Bua Sahib, in his vexation, said something regrettable, and Baba advised him, "Learn to swallow your anger. Try to remain cheerful in all circumstances. Try to be humble and don't ever answer me back." Uh, Marvin, would you like to pick up from here? Thank you.
These sharp arrows of mine are very good for your spirit. The wine is hidden in them. You have been my companion the longest. Have courage. It is because of your courage that I am going to Persia, Bao Saheb's birthplace. Keep me pleased and remain content that you do so. I have to retire in seclusion for 4 months, after which we will have to travel around the world. Baba then gave these special orders for the men to follow. No one should talk about me either on the ship or in Persia. None should distribute any books, photographs, or lockets without my permission. No one should come to know of my presence, as that would disturb my seclusion. After my work is done, I myself will speak and inform others. Remain quiet and continue doing as I order until then. Before having received these instructions, Bausab had given Dastur's English booklet on the Meher ashram to a fellow passenger. The next day, Chanji found out about it and informed Baba, who was furious with Bao Saheb. Chanji managed to get the booklet back from the man, but on account of it, 2 or 3 other persons came to the cabin for Baba's darshan. Thereafter, Baba remarked, "For 7 years, I have tried to stay in a quiet place, but I could not manage to. This is the last attempt. If it fails, then everyone will have to face hardships, if not directly, then indirectly." Then he said, Christ held the key to the world in his hand, but he was nailed on the cross. Scroll. Although none of the passengers were informed of Meher Baba's identity, once they saw him, they could not help but stare. A Muslim who worked in the ship's engine room would stand silently in a corner and gaze at Baba, feeling too moved to speak. He never uttered a word, nor did Baba seemingly pay attention to him. After 5 days passed, Baba sent for the person and handed him his handkerchief. The man had tears in his eyes in appreciation of the precious gift, which he said he would never part with. On another occasion, a Catholic Goanese steward questioned Chanji, "Who is this Christ-like person? Is he your living master, your guru?" "He is our friend," Chanji replied, "and yours too." Next page. By Thursday, 26 September 1929, the ship reached the Persian port of Mohammerah, or Khorramshahr, and all were requested to be inoculated against cholera. Chanji tried to have Baba exempted from this, as he had already had a vaccination in Bombay before leaving, but he failed and Baba was forced to take the injection. When they disembarked and were going through customs, the customs officer seized all the books, lockets, photographs, and phonograph records they were carrying. He claimed they were anti Islamic. Baba observed, "They won't return these things to us. They will create difficulties and will interfere in my work in seclusion." Pointing to Bao Saheb, he remarked, "Because of your slight disobedience, the whole plan is upset and out of kilter. What a calamity! And it is due to the negligence of one man. What was the necessity of bringing these books with us? What a misfortune you have caused. You should know by now that a conversation had with good intentions at times gives rise to chaos." Meanwhile, a meeting with higher officials failed to clear the luggage, but it seems the photos and lockets were returned to them. The books were shipped to Tehran for clearance, and all in the group felt harassed. Baba remarked, "Even in the midst of this confusion, I am quite happy because I remember roaming throughout this place in a past incarnation." And there's a footnote. Mona, you going to read the footnote? You're muted.
Yeah, I'm reading. One second. Oops. Where are we? Ooh.
Footnote is about, "Even in the midst of this confusion, I am quite happy because I remember roaming throughout this place in a past incarnation." All right, maybe we'll come back to that footnote.
Did you just read the footnote?
I can't see it. Well, I can't open it.
Okay, just give me a minute. Some weird things happening. Yeah. Baba was referring to his previous advent as Zoroaster, who was born and carried out his universal work in Persia over 6,000 years ago. Yep, continue, please.
With the help of a wandering dervish, they found a suitable house for their stay in Mohammerah. After 2 days of looking, Jalbai humorously remarked, "Where are all the Persian grapes and pomegranates we've heard so much about? The grapes are said to be as big as Rao Saheb's head." Since arriving, everyone had been thinking of Rao Saheb, who had failed to arrive in Mohammerah with Chota Baba and Ali Akbar as planned. Aga Ali had been dropped off at his relative's house in Yezd. Baba had telegrams dispatched to various people in Persia trying to locate them. Due to an accident to the bus they were traveling on, Rao Saheb and the boys had not been able to arrive on schedule. While the telegrams were being sent around Persia, Rao Saheb and the boys were only a few miles from Mohammerah, where they were stranded for 3 days. On the third day, the 28th, when the conversation was again focused on their whereabouts, there was a knock at the door. When it was opened, Rao Saheb was standing outside with the two boys. Baba's smile welcomed them with joy. That night after dinner, Baba went for a walk with the men and sat for a while at a small cafe where they listened to Arabic gramophone records. When they returned, Baba talked with Rao Saheb until late at night. Parts of Persia are extremely cold in September. Remarking about it, Jalbai teased Maruti Patil. "In Isfahan and Yezd, it is so cold that without drinking wine, people can't survive. We too will have to drink and drink just to stay alive." Maruti took Jalbai seriously, however, and as he was a strict Maratha, he was worried that he would be made to imbibe alcohol. When Baba was informed about it, he remarked, "It is true that the weather will be severely cold, but why are you concerned about drinking wine? Are we eating meat when we don't get vegetarian food?" They were not. Such talk is rubbish. Explaining further to the men, Baba stated, "Wine is good for both health and the spiritual life. It is an intoxicant and tonic for both. If, after drinking wine, thoughts are diverted to spiritual advancement, it is a great push toward the goal. Otherwise, it can lead to hell. Wine is such that either it raises you to the highest pinnacle or makes you fall into the deepest ditch." The main object of drinkers of old in the ancient past was spiritual. Seekers then used not only wine, but also hemp, heroin, hashish, and opium, so much so that even sadgurus would indulge in them. Sai Baba used to smoke a chilam, and Pasni Maharaj smoked bidis. But eventually, during those times, ordinary people indulged in these intoxicants for the wrong reasons. They could not understand their proper use, and the effects of the intoxication diverted their thoughts to carnal desires, worst of all to lust, the greatest obstacle in the way. In the spiritual path, lust is the greatest obstacle. Even a thought of it should not enter the mind. That is why I tell you, keep your langoti, loincloth, tight, which means to have no lustful thoughts, do no lustful actions, and do not touch or even look at a woman. Lust is so forceful that even looking at a woman sets one thinking, and thinking leads to action. Compare the love between a child and his mother. The child plays in her arms and touches her without creating the least thought of lust. But the slightest touch between the father and mother may arouse lustful thoughts in them. After a few days, Baba directed Rao Sahib to hire a bus for the journey through Persia. There were 14 in the group with Baba, 3 boys and 11 men, and they planned to travel from one corner of the country to the, can't see, to the other, west to east. At this time, there was a grave danger of thieves and dacoits on the way from Mohammed to Isfahan. By traveling along this route, they were told, they were literally putting their lives in jeopardy. After Reza Shah had ascended the Persian throne, military patrols were placed at fixed locations along the main highways, which lessened the threat of highway robberies. In addition, since Baba's first visit to Persia in 1924, religious feelings were not as hostile as they once were, and to some extent, brotherly feelings prevailed between the Muslims and Zoroastrians, which made travel less dangerous for Baba and the men, some of whom were of Zoroastrian descent. However, heavy motor traffic had only recently started in Persia, and the roads were so horrendous that it was practically impossible to travel a long distance in one day. Another problem was that there were no road signs of towns posted along the way, which made knowing the exact route very confusing. But their worst difficulty while traveling in Persia was obtaining vegetarian food, as it was simply not available. At times, the group would have to remain only on dry bread. To find a suitable means of conveyance through the desert regions was also a problem, but somehow Rao Sahib managed and all the transportation arrangements were made. Since arriving in Persia, Baba's health had broken down. His mouth was swollen with sores. He had a cold, as well as headaches and stomach pains. On 30th September, Baba remarked, "When my inner spiritual work is intense, it affects and strains my physical body. But I have no care for this bodily burden." That day, after many months, Baba shaved off his beard, and so did Chanji. The police commissioner of Mohammed and other officials wanted to meet Meher Baba, and when this was brought to Baba's attention, he scolded the men sternly. I have told you 1,000 times not to disclose my identity to outsiders. I don't like it. I do not wish to see anyone here. I might give darshan of my own accord elsewhere, but not here. None of you listens to me, and this creates all these unnecessary harassments. It was later discovered that the dervish who had arranged for their house had informed others about Meher Baba. When they first met him, the dervish did not know at the time who Baba really was, but he found out when Baba visited Ardashir Irani's house in Mohammed. But Baba was adamant and did not grant darshan to anyone in Mohammed. And there's a footnote there. Mona, can you read
Yeah,
us the footnote?
yeah, I am. It's just that I have to mute every time I come come back. Um, Adishir Irani first met Baba at Manzil Imam and later lived at Mehrabad, where he was appointed Director of Agriculture. He had returned to Persia a few months before in June. Thank you, Marvin. We shall have the next reader, and that would be Rosalie. Bring it on, Rosalie. There's a map of Persia. This is, yeah.
On Tuesday, 1st October 1929, Baba decided to leave for Isfahan. 3 cars were hired. Baba ordered that the cars follow closely behind one another. But due to a disagreement between the drivers, the 3 cars took off in 3 different directions. Except for the car carrying Baba, the other 2 cars developed mechanical trouble and broke down after going a short distance. Thus, another transportation arrangement had to be made. To accommodate the mandali and the group's luggage, a truck was hired. Baba continued to travel by car with Rao Sahib and the 2 boys. Baba reached Isfahan on 15 October after 11 days of driving and stayed at the Asre Talai Hotel. Meanwhile, the truck carrying the mandali was having serious problems. Besides the mandali, the truck carried their 79 pieces of luggage. And besides these, the driver had stealthily piled 14 heavy bags of sugar onto the truck. Due to the excessive weight, the tires burst on the 2nd day of the journey. The mishap occurred in a desolate area, and the mandali had to spend 2 days there waiting for new tires to arrive. As for food, nothing was available but cucumbers. When they eventually left, the truck again broke down and they were forced to halt at 2 more places along the way. The men stayed 2 days and a night at one place where nothing except meat and eggs were available. And once again, they had to be content subsisting on cucumbers. Their next stop was a mountain pass 7,000 feet high, where no shelter for the night was found. They were stopped by a military guard and spent a freezing night sleeping in the truck. The next morning, all were numb. There was nothing they could find to eat, and they were hungry. The area was notorious for thieves, and they felt in constant danger of being robbed. However, there was no alternative but to proceed. The truck broke down once again and could not be repaired. After waiting 2 days, a bus was hired in which they traveled to Isfahan and met Baba on 17 October, 2 days after he had arrived. They had been traveling for 16 miserable days and were exhausted. Meanwhile, in Isfahan, Baba had sent Rao Sahib to the telegraph office several times each day with instructions to cable the commander of the army, the governor, the police, and other authorities along their route to make inquiries about the Mandali. Every reply said they had no information about where Baba's men were. Nevertheless, Rao Sahib was sent again to insist that the investigation continue. This went on for 2 days. Finally, the telegraph clerk told Rao Sahib that he would inform him if any information was received. So Rao Sahib did not send any further inquiries. When he returned, Baba asked him, "Did you send the cables?" Rao Sahib admitted he had not. Baba slapped him 3 times and began abusing him harshly. "You bloody fool," he said. "You've spoiled my game. Whatever I told you to do, you should have listened and done exactly as ordered. It was my work for the betterment of Persia. With every telegram I told you to send to the army chief, the governor, the police, I was working for their good, to improve things, but you spoiled it all." When the Mandali finally reached Isfahan, Chanji and Karim both had high fevers. Karim was unconscious and his mouth would not open. He appeared to be in a coma and on the verge of death. A new page, please. Tumultuous travel. Baba, however, did not pay the slightest attention to him and only asked the Mandali about their journey. After an hour, he inquired, "Who is that lying in the corner?" When told that it was Karim, he asked for a cup of warm tea. Karim's pulse was faint and his complexion was as pale as a corpse. Baba opened Karim's mouth and poured tea down his throat with a spoon. In a short while, Karim began perspiring and after an hour regained consciousness. Within 2 days, he was completely revived and fully alert. On Friday, 18th October 1929, the men were permitted to take a bath at a hammam khana, Turkish bath, and launder their clothes, having not done either for more than 10 days. The cold had been intense. So they had hardly perspired. Isfahan was also cold, yet they felt refreshed after washing off the dust and sand of the journey. Baba took a hot bath at the same place the next day with some of the men who had not gone the day before. After their bath on the 19th, the talk turned to the kings of old. Baba remarked, Akbar was large-hearted, kind and broad-minded. He wasn't as brave as Shivaji. He was matchless among the Mughal kings. Shivaji was brave, knew no fear, was very kind and clever. He was the founder of a kingdom and so big-hearted he was willing to sacrifice even his empire at the feet of his guru Ramdas. That's no small thing. He was incomparable among the Marathas. He had two masters, Ramdas and Tukaram. He used to go daily to hear Tukaram Maharaj's abjangs. Once, when he was with Tukaram, his enemies surrounded him. But Tukaram's grace prevented any harm being done to Shivaji, as the enemies could not see one Shivaji, but so many. All the people around him looked like Shivaji to his enemies. Akbar's son, Jahangir, was indolent, easygoing, fond of pleasures. His good fortune got him Nur Jahan, his wife, who was ruling and dispensing justice well. Aurangzeb was industrious, hardworking, a man who earned his own bread from working. But his fanaticism wiped everything out. Massacres. It brought about the ultimate ruin of the Mughal Empire. Babur was brave but lazy, too fond of the good things of life. Alexander the Great was very brave, most fearless, but too ambitious and power hungry. Later, Baba made these pronouncements about the salient qualities of the men Mandali accompanying him. Gustaji belongs to the seventh plane. Vishnu is inspired, spiritualistic, but impulsive and prone to occasional outbursts of anger. Chagan looks as if he is always in samadhi, like a yogi, but his cheeks swell in no time. He gets angry and excited easily. Chagan looks as if he is always in samadhi like a yogi, but his cheeks swell in no time. He gets angry, excited easily. Rao Saheb is our general manager, handling everyone with firmness. Jalbai is a musician. Sidhu is a singer. Chanji is one who pick up and continues on the notes of the singer, a drum beater. Wow Saheb, Kareem, and Masaji are the audience. After serving dinner to the Mandali on the 19th, Baba made the following remarks concerning the immorality of some Iranians. We should pity them. They are not to blame. It is their ignorance. Now that I have come to Persia, I shall finish this work of purifying the atmosphere before returning to India. Baba then confronted the man. Meanwhile, tell me one thing and be frank. I have a special reason to ask about it. Today, I want you to disclose to me any wrong actions you have done before or after joining me. If you have done something, I want you to confess it with an open heart and without the least fear, whatever it may be. Each man candidly revealed his weaknesses before Baba, which pleased him. Afterward, he remarked, "Now you do not have to repent for anything. You have been open with me, and I have forgiven you for every wrongdoing. There are a few among you without any fault, but I have forgiven all the others." Baba explained, "Just as I ask you today to confess openly your weaknesses, Jesus would meet daily with his mandali at a fixed time and forgive their weaknesses and advise them. From this act of Jesus, the Catholics approach a priest for confession to this day. It is a good practice, but after a confession and pardon, the action should not be repeated. If they are repeated, where is the benefit? It does no good if you commit 700 wrongs in 7 days and go to a priest to confess only to repeat them later." The priests, dasturs, mullahs, and preachers give long-winded sermons, but they prove ineffective. People listen with one ear and it goes out the other, for they continue committing sins. The reason for this is that only a perfect master can deal with the consequences of human offenses, underline their seriousness, and influence the offender's mind. What impression can the words of a priest produce? Is it the knowledge of a Sadguru that creates a real impression? And is it his knowledge that has influence? So be alert. Do not make mistakes and commit errors for which you will later repent. The intensity of lust has broken the penance and austerity of even rishis and munis. So what about you? Your luck has brought you into my sahavas, companionship, and you have been forgiven with your confession. In fact, your hearts should turn to water by my loving forgiveness. And I am not angry at your shortcomings, but I have forgiven you under the condition that you do not indulge in the offenses again. How fortunate you all are that you have received my forgiveness today. It is my nature to forgive, and once I forgive, there is nothing to repent for." Baba then made each of the mandali promise never to touch any woman in a lustful way. As for those who were married, they were to promise not to touch any woman except their wives. The mandali, though happy to be forgiven by Baba, felt self-conscious and guilty about their past weaknesses. Baba then elaborated on what he had stated. Lust is not bad. Because of this lust, you have been born as human beings. It is due to this very lust that you will turn from men into God. But even if lust is there in you, don't put it into action. From the spiritual point of view, lust is the worst possible weakness. The real hero is he who successfully fights it. Sleeping with a woman who isn't your wife is one of the worst possible sins. What has to happen has happened, but from now on, beware of carnality. Follow my orders and stay away from lust. What lasting pleasure can one derive from such stinking parts? It dirties the body and destroys the soul. I know each and everything, but knowing everything, I keep on watching. Perhaps you might think, why doesn't Baba save us from committing sins despite knowing everything? Before you do any wrong action, I already know that you're going to do it. Then why do I not prevent you? It is my secret. The secret of my work is, though I know everything, I do not interfere. The fact is, you should have this lust, but you should do your utmost not to fall prey to it. You should put up a fierce fight, and though defeated 1,000 times, you should again be ready to continue to fight it.
Thank you, Rosalie. Mahu, would you read next? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Where I wish it, excuse me, I could destroy the lust in you in no time. But what would be the use of destroying it? In the end, it will be I who destroys it. In the meantime, continue with the battle inside yourself. This is the law. It is necessary. Then joy will come in defeating lust. Without a struggle, there is no pleasure in fighting. The real pleasure lies in success after so many defeats. Wars won without obstacles, without sacrifices, and untiring effort afford no pleasure. This should be a life and death fight. Lust is to be fought. It is a lifelong struggle. It will harass you to the end of your days. It should be there to fight you, and you should always be alert and ready for battle. He who has love for and faith in me will try doubly hard to obey me. If you touch any woman inappropriately, tell me immediately. This is one remedy. Another is to think that in your last birth you were a woman and had connections with a man. Now you are a man and you want connections with a woman. You have had enough satisfaction in previous births. What is to be had by more lust? For most, you should try to get rid of lust, as all other vices are on account of it. For instance, if a parrot's throat is cut, it dies. But if its wings are clipped, it does not die. After some time, the feathers of the wings grow back. Lust can be compared to the parrot's head. Therefore, when lust is still present and we conquer other evils, such as anger, the evils again revive. Everything rises out of the head. But if lust is killed once and for all, every other evil is also destroyed. You have cut off its head. More. Yet in truth, lust is necessary for evolution. More page. It starts developing in the vegetable forms. With the increase in lust, there is advancement in evolution. Since lust means energy, and with the increase in energy, consciousness expands. But these are points on this path which you will never understand. There are thousands of points thinner than hair. Remember, it is no easy thing to eradicate sanskaras gathered during birth after birth, and lust is the hardest of all. But be heroes and fight lust. You will defeat it. The real pleasure is to fight it and not succumb to it. Knowing this, I let you remain, but I will destroy it in you when the time comes. Until then, go on fighting and never give up. The very next day, Sunday, 20th October 1929, Baba again asked all the Mandali to gather together and openly confess any misdeeds. One of the men became annoyed, asking why they had to confess again when they confessed yesterday. This upset Baba and he scolded him. Quote, "You are a fool, an idiot. There is a purpose behind it. How can you know why I am having you confess again today?" Baba explained at length. How can you understand it? How can you understand what is happening here? Do you know how evil vice is in this country? That is why I have come to Persia. Whatever I have to do, I am doing. How can you understand it? How can you ever understand my ways of working? Therefore, keep quiet and do as I tell you. Never ask why and wherefore. How can you delve into our mysterious ways? Everything cannot be divulged. For my own particular reasons, if I make you feel ashamed 1,000 times, remain humble and bow low. You would be so fortunate if I made you feel naked in the eyes of the world. The master is always ready to pass on the treasure to you. But your vessel is not empty. It is filled with filth. I want to give you love, but your mind is full of lust. Unless you get rid of it, I cannot give you the experience of love. Therefore, conquer lust, drive it away.
Thank you, Mahu. Elizabeth, would you like to read next?
Okay. While in Isfahan, Baba would spend much time with Ali Akbar and Chota Baba. Baba remembered Aga Ali often and would kiss his photograph in sobs and throbs. By the 20th, Baba was ready to move on and future plans were discussed. I have to remain in seclusion for 4 months, he stated. For that purpose, Isfahan is not a suitable place. We have to go somewhere else. After much discussion, Baba liked the suggestion of Yezd and inquired, who wishes to remain with me during my seclusion? Those who want to return to India may do so from here. All were ready to stay with Baba except for Manuti Patil, who no longer wished to remain in Persia. Baba promised to send him home after reaching Yezd. Baba then stated, think twice before you accompany me or leave me. No one knows what will happen hereafter. Aside from shivering in the cold and having fevers, it is possible you might face other privations. Remember what hardships you have passed through up to now, and then decide. I need more page. Don't trust me. It is snowing and freezing outside, and if it comes into my head to continue the journey, you will have to come with me. I am not affected by anything. You should learn to bear everything. So think carefully about your decision. If you want to go back to India, then go. If you wish to remain with me, all the better. It is best to stay with me. But while with me, think of yourselves as already dead, for you cannot do things according to your own wishes. Every moment you will have to act according to my wish. If you do that, no one will ever touch even a hair on your head. To make the men make up their minds, Baba quoted a few Persian couplets from various poems, the gist of which he explained as follows.
I'll read the footnote. According to Jalbai, when Baba heard that the tomb of Hafiz was in an unkept condition in Shiraz, either on this trip to Persia or on an earlier one, Baba sent one of his disciples to see the minister for education there. And a new culture was and a new structure was subsequently built over Hafiz's grave and the gardens restored. Continue, please.
If you entertain the thought of becoming a real lover, you should wash your hands of even your life. One should be free and frank before crossing the threshold of the master. The method in this darbar is to break the lover's neck, and the habit of its emperor is indifference. Next page. The lover should cleanse his heart of all doubts and be eager to fill it with the fire of love. Many horses cannot run in this race, only a few. Many peacocks are not found in this lane, only a few. The heart of the lover is the lair of the lion. Whoever enters this lane enters only when he is totally fed up with life. It is a mistake to talk with others about love and its pangs. It is an insult to complain about love and service. If one happens to have even a ray of that love, he has gained all the prosperity of the world. For the lover who has seen the beloved, the wealth of such a person is only love. His life is then eternal existence. Then Baba said, now speak up. Who wants to stay with me? All consented, which pleased Baba, and he concluded, very good. Let us see what the future holds. Baba indicated he wished to send for Rustam, Ramju. Ramju remembers me a great deal, Dastur, and the boy Basant, and that he would make this decision when he arrived in Yezd. Next page. Meanwhile, Ralph Sab informed Baba that he saw some local townspeople wearing lockets with Baba's image pinned to their coats, and they had expressed their joy at Meher Baba's presence in Isfahan. They were waiting for the opportunity to meet the master. Baba asked the Mandali, how did they know I was here? Who gave them the lockets? Two boys, Syed and Hassan, who were working for the Mandali as servants, were questioned. Although they lied at first, they finally admitted to telling others about Meher Baba.
Well,
Okay,
maybe
hang on. Yeah.
all the stocks are mixed.
Okay, thanks.
Baba warned them, never tell a lie, even if you have to die because of something you have done. Wherever you may be, either in the world or with me, never lie. Baba made them promise this, and then he embraced them. The people in Isfahan who had come to know about Baba would continually request the master's darshan. Finally, Baba agreed to see them. Many came, both rich and poor. They went away with Baba's photographs and lockets, although wearing pendants of a guru's image was against Islam. Some had even touched Baba's feet. Only Baba's love could make these Muslims do this. Even the fanatics bowed before the divine power of Baba's love. Baba and the group left Isfahan for Yezd on Tuesday, 22nd October, 1929. Before departing, Baba remarked, if seclusion is possible in Yezd, good. Otherwise, we will see later on. Next page. Baidul and Marabranpur, with 6 of the boys from the Meher ashram, had been sent to Persia 5 months before. As Baba and the group were nearing the town of Jafrabad, Baidul's native place, Baba unexpectedly asked, where should we go, to Jafrabad or Yezd? Baba then sent Rao Sahab to Baidul's house in Jafrabad. Baidul, Marabanpur, and the boys came to meet them and had a joyous reunion with the master. After 2 days of travel through a vast desert, Baba and the group arrived in Yezd at night and put up in a sarai inn. We lost the text. Mona, okay. Put up in a sarai. Where is that? It's okay. After 2 days of travel through a vast desert, Baba and the group arrived in Yezd at night and put up in a sarai inn. The next day, they were invited to stay at the house of a merchant named Arbab Rustam Kushrav, and Baba accepted the offer. Footnote.
Arbab is a respectful term in Persian for Mr. or Sir. Continue. Actually, let's have the next reader. Thank you, Elizabeth. Would Jay read today or Jay, are you reading today? Okay. Ralph, would you like to read next? Ralph. All right.
Oh, no, sure.
Thank you.
I need to manipulate my screen a bit to get the text larger. What do I go to standard view? There, yeah.
Okay. Are you
Uh,
sorted?
meanwhile, is that us?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tanji and Karim were still ill, and Sidhu was given the duty of looking after them. One of the primary reasons the men were falling sick was due to the unsanitary conditions prevalent in Persia at the time. The sewage and water systems were not hygienically managed, and obtaining fresh water was a problem during the entire journey. Sidhu was given the duty, and water was only a, this duty. Sidhu was given this duty of obtaining fresh water throughout the journey. And Sidhu carried what's the thing? Sidhu was given this duty, and water was only available at a few small ponds outside their residences. Few small ponds. People carried the water in leather bags, but even this water was polluted. When Sidhu went to collect water, he usually found fecal matter lying near the banks of the pond. And once he saw a man urinate into the pond. When he told Baba about it, Baba directed him to boil and reboil the water until it was purified. In Yazd, many Zoroastrians and Muslims came for Baba's darshan, being drawn to him as their hearts ached with an unexplainable pain. 4 large darshan programs were held there. Our Arbab Rustam was a highly influential person, so the local townspeople also, as well as persons of high rank in both the military and government departments, came to meet Baba and were eager to have his photo locket. These lockets were being distributed as keepsakes. Some persons requested that for Baba to visit their homes, which he did. One especially memorable contact in Yazd was the head of the Baha'i faith, who had come especially to Yazd from Shiraz by airplane to challenge Meher Baba with questions. Someone want to read the insert, the footnote?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Baha'i is a mystical religion founded in Persia during 1863 by Baha'u'llah, 1817 to 1892, who emphasized the spiritual unity of all mankind. Baha'u'llah was a follower of Bab, the title of Ali Muhammad of Shiraz, 1819 to 1850, who was a Qutb. Yeah, continue.
Baba came, no, the leader of the Baha'i faith, he came with the express purpose of exposing Baba as a charlatan of faith. But no sooner had his gaze fallen on Baba, had he caught sight of Baba, than he forgot everything he planned to ask. And with tears in his eyes declared, "You are God Himself."
Thank you, Ralph.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we shall end the meeting here on page 1104.
I'm
And
sorry, the next page, it finishes, he's meeting with Baba just in 2 lines, if we want to finish that. On 1105.
you can read, Mahu. Thank you.
So he says, he bowed down. This is the Baha'i person who came to meet Baba. Says he bowed down and stretched himself on the floor at Baba's feet and wept. After coming out of Baba's room, he exclaimed to people, "Today I have met God." Finish it. Then he goes to something.
Thank you so much. And we shall stop recording now and we can have a short chat.